Hey guys, this is S. Anthony Thomas. This is the S. Anthony Thomas Show. My guest this time is Davin Rosenblatt, a very funny man, a comedian I know you will love. We have a great conversation and we get an opportunity to start this year off right with a great guest. Folks, every time I tell you you're going to love my guest, you wind up loving my guest. And guess what? You're going to love my guest. So, are you ready to get 2019 started off? Of course you are. Let's do it. All right, everybody. I just wanted to add this to the beginning of the episode before the episode started, because a lot of times I'll do an episode and I'll touch on something in the episode and people will begin asking me questions later on. And I know my audience well enough to know that when you hear this episode, I already know I'm going to be getting questions in the email. So I'm going to pre-answer those questions. When I talked to Davin, who's a friend of mine, we were talking about a lot of things in comedy. And two of the things that came up when discussing comedy were the Tiffany Haddish, that tough set she had. And I'm not going to talk about that here. You can listen to the episode for that. And the second thing that we talked about was the Chris Rock scandal, where Louis C.K., who's a friend of his, used the N-word. Now, in this episode, I said that you could basically get away with, as Chris Rock, you could get away with going, come on, man, I don't talk about that stuff, or nah, man, I don't like to use that word. You could do that. And we didn't touch on the subject much. We it was kind of part of a larger discussion. So I know that because I didn't dive into that, people are going to ask me why I didn't dive into that, or they're going to ask me, well, what would you do? What would you do if your friend used the N-word towards you or in front of you? And I'll explain now. Obviously, I'm a black dude and I've been doing comedy for a long time. And just from the sheer volume of people I know, 70% of my friends in comedy are white guys or white ladies, because most people in comedy are white guys or white ladies. So that's, the percentage. So I can tell you right now, none of them has ever used that word to me or around me, mainly because I don't think it's within them to say that. And second, they would never say that around me because they know me well enough. And they also know that I wouldn't find it acceptable because they know me. So no, none of my friends has ever done that. The second question people would ask me is, if a friend did do that, would you check them? And the answer to that question is, yes, I would. But I believe in two types of checks. There's the soft check and then there's the hard check. I tend to do the soft check because I'm not around people that use that word. I'm around people that if they use that word, I'd be surprised, and most likely would be in context of something else. They wouldn't be calling someone that. They'd be maybe singing it in a song or something. And even in that case, I would go, yo, dude, nah. I don't like that. Don't use that word, bro. That's not cool. And they would stop. But once again, none of my friends has ever used that word around me. So my thing is this, and this is essentially what I would say. The best case scenario, the best way to go about it is don't use the N-word. There's really no real reason to use it. I'm not a big fan of it being used. Even when other black people call me that or go, hey, you're my N-word, I don't like that either. But I'm not going to stop my day to give somebody a history lesson on the word and where it came from. They should be able to figure that out themselves. So I know you're going to ask me, if that happened, if you were Chris Rock in that situation and Louis C.K. was your friend in that situation and he said it in that specific context, would you check him? Yes, I would. I would go, yo, dude, no, I'm not calling you an N-word. I don't like the N-word. I mean, we cool. We're good. We're buddies and everything, but I don't like that. Let's keep that word out of our conversations. I don't like it. And I would have checked him. But that would have been a soft check. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what's the hard check? The hard check is, what? You mother jumping? Roar. Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but you know what I'm saying. A more aggressive display of my displeasure. So I'm just putting this on the show so people, I know that because we didn't dive into the topic as much as I would have if that was a specific topic of the show. I'm just basically pre-answering your questions. Now, as it turns out, this particular episode is a fun episode. It's an informative episode. But like I said, I wanted to make sure everybody understood before the questions come in. And I know the questions are going to come in because the questions always come in about how I would handle that situation. And now you know. Okay. Showtime. All right, everybody. It's 2019. I'm back. I took a couple of weeks off. I got your email. I know you got annoyed with me, but I told you I was going to take a couple of weeks off, and I told you I'd be back in 2019. And I wanted to come back, and I'm going to come back with someone I know personally. This is a friend of mine, is a funny, funny man, and I'm glad to have him on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, a personal friend of mine, someone I love dearly, Mr. Davin Rosenblatt. How you doing?
Hey, pal, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. It's really weird because we actually know each other because I worked for you a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think the last gig I did for you was in New Jersey, somewhere up near New York.
Yes, it was.
It was a restaurant.
Yeah, right outside New York. Now, it's not like I haven't tried to get you since then.
Yeah, I know. The restraining order is going to lapse in April. The restraining order stops in April of this year. Well, you'll be seeing a lot of me very, very soon. But
that's cool.
I just want to know what I want to find out, because what I've been doing is I've been having people on this program that I know, and some people that I was interested in and didn't know, and I know you for a while, obviously. And this is something I'm curious about, because I love the origin story, and even though I know you, I never got the Davin Rosenblatt origin story. I don't know, why you started doing comedy. That fascinates me. So you got to let me know. What made you decide to pick up the microphone, my friend?
Well, I mean, I came from parents on a distant planet, and the planet, right before the planet was set to explode, they jettisoned me away, and I landed on Earth, and that's how I got my comedic superpowers. No, that's not my origin story. That's Superman.
I was wondering why your dad looked like Marlon Brando.
Doesn't talk as clearly, but looks just like him. The origin story. I just growing up, I was a child of the '80s. Comedy was huge in the '80s. It was always on TV, and so I was always a fan of comedy growing up. And then when I was in college, I saw a fraternity buddy of mine do an open mic, and I thought, well, I'm funnier than him. So I spoke to the guy who was putting it together. He's like, yeah, come on down whenever you want. And like a year or two later, when I was right before I was getting ready to go to law school, but before that, I found the guy, and I asked if I could go on stage. And he said, come back on such and such night with 5 minutes of material. And I haven't stopped.
Hold it a second.
All right.
Law school in the left hand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was getting ready to start. I hadn't actually started yet. I was already accepted. I was getting ready to start.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, the way you just said that, I hadn't been to get accepted to law school is a major accomplishment.
Oh, I went to law school. I went to it. I mean, yeah, but listen, if I hadn't done comedy, I'd probably be a lawyer right now. We wouldn't be able to do this podcast. So it's a good thing I left.
I was getting ready. I was probably, Dad, listen, 15 years from now, you're going to want to talk to someone you could talk to anytime you wanted to. I need you to stop doing I need you to stop doing law, and it's just one of those weird things. Everybody that I know that started to do this from some place where you didn't expect them to come from. Law school.
There's actually a lot of comics were lawyers and teachers. It's because we're both involved standing up. Well, it can involve standing up and talking. People who like to hear themselves talk.
Now, okay, then you're originally from what area?
Jersey.
North
Jersey.
Oh, North Jersey. Oh, good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you'd have done school up in there, buddy, you'd have been standing up talking, all right, ducking stuff.
Yeah, well,
kids are.
North Jersey's great for stand-up comedy.
I know.
There's a lot of competition. Which makes you better or wipe out.
It's really weird because when you go up there, because I the first time I went to New York, I started doing comedy in '86, like January of '86. First time I went to New York was near the end of '86, and I thought I was good. Everybody thinks they're good till they go to New York and Los Angeles, especially New York. Good Lord. They are monsters up there.
So you noticed a big difference from where you were than from what was going on in the scene in New York at that time?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. It was not because people were more talented. I mean, human beings are human beings, carbon-based organisms. But it's just that the stage time that people were getting in the New York area, you have 5 boroughs that are the same size as my hometown. So New York is 5 Philadelphias. So, so the opportunity to get on stage, I was getting on stage 2 times a week, and I was hanging out with guys that were getting on stage 13 times a week.
But there's also a lot more competition up here, too.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, if you really, I mean, this is my theory, and this is something, and maybe, and you've been doing it long enough, and you've been a great comic for long enough, so you'll understand what I'm talking about. They say there's a lot of competition, but if you really think about it, when you actually look at the number of people that are doing what you did and what I'm going to start doing again, a lot of them are okay. They'll get the job done. You'd book them again, but this is pretty much, that's it. You can tell it immediately. So right there, that's 80% of them right there, pushed to the side. And then you got the people that, are good, but they're they're talented, but they're going to stop. That was a group that I was part of. And you just push that section away. And when you go to the people that are really, really good, they will never stop and they're going to keep going and this is what they're supposed to be doing, that number is a lot smaller than people think it is. And that's your competition. The only problem I have with all the other people is that they're just... It's like in line. Like when you stand in line outside, I remember the Improv back in the day and places like that. There were 55 people in line. You know damn well 40 of those people were never going to,
Right, but nobody knows that. You got to go through the process. I mean, the hardest thing about this comedy is staying with it because there's so many soul-crushing moments, so many things that tear you apart. You need to have such a thick skin. I mean, that's the hard part. The getting on stage, for the most part, for most of us, is fairly easy, but it's all the other stuff. So it's a process. It's a grind. I mean, when you're remember, when you're brand new, somebody who's been doing this 5-10 years thinks that you're the one who's just taking up space.
You're damn right.
That you're going to wash out. What?
You're damn right. Get those losers out of here.
Well, but I mean, listen, fortunately for me, when I was a new comic, I had, some veterans who I could turn to for advice. And that helps you stay in the game because, sometimes if you don't have somebody who can help you deal with what you're going through, the pain, the bad set, the no response from a booker, if you don't have somebody to talk to about it, you might just think, oh, this is just me and I just suck, and you might give up before you should.
I can relate to that. I had a lot of people that were very, very good to me, coming up. And there were people I was very, very good to because, you know how it is when you've been doing it for a while and you see a new person and it's like being a teenager and your younger brother is going through some things. He's 7. You know what I mean? And you still have a lot of growing to do because that's what happens with an art form. You have, no matter how good you get, you've been good for you were good when I stopped doing it. You know what I'm saying?
You.
So now that it's been 8 years later, I don't think that I bet Davin started to get worse after.
Well, people do get. I have seen people who get worse. I've seen people. And it's not that they stop and they come back, but I've seen people who just they don't grow and people pass them or they just get worse. I mean, to really get better, you almost always have to be working on something, whether it's how you're delivering jokes, how you're standing, obviously the writing. If you want to keep on getting better, I mean, that's why it's an art. I mean, that's where the growth comes from. It's not like, some jobs where you could just check in every day and do the same thing and nobody's going to really notice. I mean, if you really want to get good at this, you have to keep evolving. I mean, what's it take? About 10, 15, 20 years before most comics even find their voice?
Yes.
That's a long time to be blindly doing something. If you think about it.
It's the funniest thing in the world to me is after you get to the 10-year mark and you finally figured out what you're supposed to be doing, you realize there's another 5 to 10 years for you to tap into what you're really capable of doing. It's like the Matrix. After 10 years, you're just Neo that just stuck his head out of that of that cocoon. You still got the gel on you. You're looking around. What the hell is this? You're not at the bullet dodging level yet. And it's just hilarious.
And that's if you're lucky. That's if you're some comics. Like you were just talking about. Some comics, they never find their voice and they just wash out.
It's a scary thing, and it takes a lot of. I mean, even Like the thing that stopped me was like others. It was like health, like I hurt my back and the various other things. So it wasn't like I went, that's it, I'm out of here. It was just like a physical thing.
No, but health is important. I mean, because you got to get to these gigs and you got to stand. You got to stand on stage, and you got to wait to go on. Then you got to drive home. Yeah, I mean, listen, traveling was a lot easier when I was a little bit younger. I'm not going to lie. So if your back goes, it really limits you.
Yeah, I'm a few months away from being able to go back to normal. Thank goodness. But you've been traveling. You've been on the road the entire time, have you not? You've been taking care of business.
Yeah, I mean, the past several years I wasn't traveling as much as I had, but I'm going to be traveling a lot more this year. Yeah, but I mean, there was times when I was like on the road 35 weeks a year. There's a lot more work to do, and it was a lot more lucrative to do it. But yeah, but because that's where I got good. Mm-hmm. If I am good, I got that way by being on the road, just because you experience so many different things, meet people who experience life in a different way than you do. You experience things differently. You have to adjust to different audiences. I mean, there's just so much that comes from growth that can come from getting out of your comfort zone. I mean, some comics, they play the same club all the time, which is nice, but then you kind of get a little stale.
Have you do you still remember? There are things that I remember, even like yesterday was January 8th. That was my 33rd year anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Right?
I would have gotten you something.
Good Lord, I'm old. So anyway, so it's like I still like when because you on your show, by the way, he has a show called Davin's Den. Tell the people about it.
Right now?
Yes.
I got a radio show / podcast called Davin's Den, hosted with two other comedians, Joe Curry, Pip Helix, 3+ hour talk show, all sorts of stuff. Do a lot of stuff with internet scammers too. That's gotten us like headlines and TV shows like American Greed, and we've ruined a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit, and we mess with criminals, and the Pentagon consults with us. So it's an interesting type of side deal I got going on.
I like the way you just slide these big things in. Pentagon, that kind of thing,
Well, I mean,
there was a $1 billion scam. We stopped people from having their lives ruined.
I mean, if you want to talk about that stuff, we can talk about that. But we were in a comedy flow.
Oh, if we get no. The reason I brought up the show, because I was listening to it before I called you. The reason I brought this up was because I know you touch on a lot of different topics, and we were in the comedy flow, and I actually brought it into for this particular reason.
Okay.
Do you see what happened? And we've both been there. It's probably been a long time since this happened, when you had that monster, as you said in the early part of the show, soul-crushing, life-changing, you think at the time, head hurt, headache starting, stomach clenching bomb-ola.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, if you're growing, they happen a lot less frequently as you get better. Because even when you suck, it's not as bad as it used to be. Because you have more moves to get out of it. But yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, a bad set will stay with a comic a lot longer than a good set will carry him. Like a good set, you have a great set, that'll make you'll feel great on the night ride home. Might not be able to get to sleep. Might feel good the next day. Maybe for a week. Because you had that great set, if you're not working that much. You have a bad set, that shit is going to linger with you in self-doubt until you crush again.
And I'm telling you, the reason I brought this up is because I couldn't avoid online the Tiffany Haddish,
Now, I heard about this. Is there video footage of this?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, and it's like, and I've seen her be good. And one of the things is, I'm not one of those people that when someone, how Hollywood picks a hot person and they go, you're hot now, go. And they just start putting you in everything. I feel happy for the person.
Right.
I'm not going, how come I don't care about that. But the thing that annoys me about that whole situation is not the fact that people are pushed and pushed and pushed. I get it. They generate dollars. They get pushed. I get it. It's like anything else. If you have a store, you have lost leaders in the store. Okay, these sodas are going to cost, these sodas, we're going to lose money on the sodas, but we also know they're going to come and they're going to buy cupcakes and bread, so we're going to make it out. Okay. But the thing is, people were really excited by the fact that she bombed that hard.
Because they're bad people.
And
they're bad people.
That's like, and here's the thing. Now, and like I said, 33 years into the game. How long you been doing it?
I think 21 or 22, something like that.
Okay, so you're an old bastard also. So
I'm old as shit. Hell yeah.
Now, I'm telling you, Davin, when this show's over, go look. I can't. It was a 7-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
I got through about 85 seconds, and I went, oh. It literally took me back 30. The last time I had a bomb that hard was like 1986.
Oh shit!
You know, you know what I mean? I mean, just like.
And think about it. In 1986, you weren't doing it in a theater full of people that were there specifically to see you. There was probably a lot of things that were working against you, besides that you were brand new in that moment. These people wanted to love her. They were there specifically for her.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? From what I heard about it, like I said, I haven't seen it or heard it. Like, she wasn't prepared. Like, she didn't know her material.
That's the thing. Somebody asked me, has it ever happened? I've never gone on stage and not been prepared. I mean, after the first year or so. I mean, I was even prepared back then. It's because, you know, I was so scared to bomb my ass off that, you know, that when I got on stage, I had to memorize. But you know what I'm saying? When you get on there and you lose control, which happens usually early on in your career, and there's nothing you can do to save the show. Now, I felt bad. It was like 60 people.
You start cutting jokes short because you're trying to think, what will these people like? You'll move your closing bit all the way up just to get them on your side. You'll try to talk to the crowd. I mean, you try everything, and what happens is your pulse gets quicker. You start talking faster, then you get that flop sweat. And, you know, listen, audiences are like animals. They smell blood. They you know, once you lose them, it's hard to get them back. Just like once there's blood in the water, once a shark has you in its sights, it's hard to get away. Unless you got Ian Ziering with you, there's going to be some problems.
And here's the thing. That is one of the biggest rookie mistakes in the history of the world, and everybody does it. You have those two bits that work, the one in the middle, and the one that you close with. You panic and put the closing bit in there. If it doesn't work, now you know you're dead. Because you're
but by the time you get to that point, you've already failed with some stuff that you usually feel pretty good about. I mean, you know, you're not doing that your second joke, and you're like, okay, well that usually works. Well, that didn't work. All right, so we'll do some stuff that's 6 minutes, and we'll give them that. Well, that didn't work. And now you're Rolodexing. So by the time when you get to screw it, I'm giving them the closing bit. You've tried everything. There's nothing else. It's just how badly are you going to eat your own ass tonight? That's where you are in the set. Can we get this to okay?
Okay.
That's what you're trying to do.
And now listen, so the people that are listening to me, that are listening, the audience, I know the majority of you are not comics, obviously, because there's not that many, you know, not that many comics that are listening. There's a bunch of people that aren't comics, obviously. That is, like they say, one of the greatest fears is public speaking. You know how bad, and I only had maybe 50 people in the audience when I had that, and I remember what I was wearing.
Oh, wow.
I remember what I ate right before that. I remember the subway ride home, listening to it on a micro cassette recorder. You know, I'm sitting there going, why am I watching this autopsy? You know, but you have to find out and of course what I did was I got cocky, and you know, you leave a word off here, or a pause is wrong, or you screw up a punchline, and then when I listened to the tape, I went, oh, this was completely my fault. Ooh.
Well, at least when it's your fault, there's something to work on. Mm-hmm. But a lot of comics won't admit this, but you know, sometimes the audience just sucks. Mm-hmm. or sometimes the audience is good, but they're just not into you. I mean, they don't want to hear the type of material that you have, and you deliver it fine, but it's just not their cup of tea. That happens, especially when you're traveling all over the place. Like, you know, it was very hard in the beginning when I was working mostly in New York and New Jersey, and then I would go to the Deep South, and I would try to talk about Orthodox Jews, for instance, in the swamps of Georgia, like Valdosta, and they're looking at me like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" Yeah, it's like, all right, I gotta rethink this. This might be on me.
I love that look. What the hell is he talking about?
It happens. But, I mean, you hear it all the time. That's why places won't hire New York comics, because the stereotype is New York comics go wherever they go and talk about the subway. Well, you can do that if you want, but if you want to figure out how to get to surviving, then getting to succeeding, you better figure out some things.
I used to love comics that would come to town, and when it was basically like Mad Libs, you know, they walk up to you. What's the lottery called? Okay. What's a tough area?
I was one of those.
Oh,
I had a couple of those.
Oh,
what's the black area?
I was like,
what's
Jesus.
the gay area? What's the gay club? What's the shitty part of town? Yeah, I used to have that stuff in my act. Oh yeah, not anymore. Because honestly, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just not that interested. But
this guy comes in. He's got. I think he was from Florida or something like that. And he was playing a club. I think it was a bar that was notoriously rough. I mean, you could either kill or they could beat your ass in the parking lot. That's how, you know what I mean? It's one of those.
Right.
So, and I walk in there and I'm going, I grew up in my neighborhood I was like, my neighborhood was tougher than this bullshit. I'm not worried about it. I was like, I'm not scared of these idiots. So I walked on stage and they're like, and I'm like, man, shut up. And then I just literally said, man, shut up. And I just started my act and they were like, oh, I guess he's not afraid of us. I guess we can just act like a regular audience now. And I come off the guy.
But see, that thing, that's huge, because you showed that you were in control. That's huge. That's what I told you. Audiences are like wild animals, man. They smell fear.
Oh, yeah. This guy, here's the guy from Florida. He literally walks up to me with a mini clipboard. And and I remember when I said, what's the tough area? He's reading this off of a clipboard and he's writing it in. And I'm looking at him going, and I just walked off the stage with these monsters in the audience, and I'm going, oh my God, this man's dead. He's dead. He's dead. First of all, that suit he's wearing and that tie, dead. He walks on stage. How you guys doing tonight? And this is, and I'm. Somebody from the back goes, better than you, mother. And he didn't say, you know what word comes after that. Better than you, mother. And then he's like, and we're all in the back going, oh God, we're gonna have to walk this guy to the car.
Listen, man, I've had shows like that. I was at a show in Columbia, South Carolina. It was a club that it was like a week-long club. And it was a club where they had urban weeks, and urban weeks, which is catering to black people. That's that's what it was. And then they had the mainstream weeks. I was usually on the mainstream shows. For some reason, they had me booked on an urban week, which I've done a lot of urban. I've done a decent amount of urban stuff. But I had a joke in there. With the N-word in it, and it's an applause break joke. I don't do it anymore. And I said to myself, am I going to do it in front of these 300 black people or not? And I said to myself, well, if I'm going to do it in front of mixed audiences and white people, if I'm going to do it then I have to do it in front of these people. Otherwise, I don't deserve to do the joke, because it's not a gratuitous use of the word. It's a smart joke. Well, on all of the shows but two, it went great. On those two shows that didn't, there's nothing like 300 black people telling you exactly what they think of you.
Yeah, it's just like, I remember watching Sam Kinison back in the 80s do some things. Halfway through the bit, you're going, oh God, if he doesn't hit this, if he doesn't stick this landing, because like I said, it's like remember, Chris Rock just got in trouble online because someone said the N-word and he didn't check them.
Oh, what was that? Well, that was with Louis C.K. and Jerry Simon, a show they did for HBO like 7 years ago.
Like, don't you even think about it. And I'm sitting there going, there's ways to check people. All you got to do is say, man, I don't like that word, man. That's all you got to do, right? But they were expecting him. Why didn't Chris Rock get up and stab him in the throat?
I'll tell you why. Because it was two comedians talking as peers and being honest. There's a lot of things to hate Louis C.K. for. I get that. But I remember watching that conversation. That particular conversation was not a reason to hate Louis C.K. or Chris Rock, because they were talking as friends. There was cameras rolling, but what made that show so dynamic, and again, I watched it when it originally happened, was you had these heavyweights of comedy being completely honest with it. It wouldn't be the same if you felt like they were holding back. And that's probably how they talk when they're sitting around the table at the Comedy Cellar. That's probably why that was such a good watch at the time.
You cannot, and this is what I said before to somebody else. I said, if you ever get 3 to 5 comics that like each other and respect each other's work, and their friends, if you put a microphone at that table and then played it later, everybody gets crushed.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we say completely awful things that are not allowed in polite society then, let alone now, where everybody's really sensitive. Comics are not bankers. We're different. We're wired differently. We look at the world differently. Comics are more like policemen, firemen, military, who all have a very dark, sick sense of humor. So if you're going to judge us when our guard's down, you're not going to find any comics that you find acceptable. That's just the way it is. Yeah, you kind of, as an audience member, have to make that Faustian bargain. Go, you know what? I know these people are degenerates, but they make me laugh. Now, that doesn't mean you get to jerk off in front of peers. Doesn't mean you get to do that. But you just have to understand that we're going to say some stuff.
Yeah, bad news. That's what I was doing right now. I was if
only I was there with you.
Well, it has nothing to do with you. Don't get so full of yourself. I just said I planned on doing this later on tonight, but I got to go to bed early, so I decided to multitask.
Jeez, I'm not even special enough to inspire you. I'm just an unlucky casualty.
Hey, man, we haven't talked in a while. We got to regain that connection. I'm just saying, it's just
but my voice is sexy, so it should be enough.
Hold on, let me finish this. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, audience members, did you just hear that? That's what I'm talking about. That's how comics talk to each other. Okay. We'll be back right after this short message. And now, back to the show. Okay? So
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to get into podcasting.
All right.
I know why I started, but I want to know why you started. I mean, it's a good idea because you ad lib, you think on your feet very well. So this is a great format for it. But why did you pick this?
Because I'm a moron. I didn't really. I didn't. What happened was I was up in Rochester, New York, and I had to do morning radio. And for those who aren't comics, when you're a comedian, a lot of times when you come into town, you got to do morning radio on the morning shows to promote the shows. So the big show up there at the time was a show called Brother Wheeze. Brother Wheeze started Opie of Opie and Anthony. If you're ever a fan of that show, you know who that is?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. So I came in a couple days for to promote on the Brother Wheeze show, and they loved me. The Brother Wheeze loved me. The crew loved me. They're like, listen, I just want to say we got a lot of positive feedback on you, and if we had the money, we'd bring you on board. Bop, 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 bop. So I was like, that's interesting. So then what I did is I did local terrestrial radio where I live, which was pay to play, which I had to get the sponsors in order to pay the radio station to get my airtime. So I started doing that, and from there, and then I wound up working with Anthony Cumia of the Opie and Anthony show, now Compound Media, and then it just took off from there. It started in 2011. And then the scammer stuff took on a life of its own when some African scammer was trying to romance scam me, make me fall in love with her. And I had a feeling it was BS from the get-go, but I didn't know exactly what it was, so I made it into a bit. And, I'd have these, I made it seem like I was believing her, and I would call her up live on the air, wake her up in the middle of the night like we're in love, and it all ballooned. I was never one of these people that said I should podcast. It's just I wound up going from radio, and I've had my show's been nationally syndicated. We've been in a bunch of markets to podcasting. So it was just something I was told I was good at, and it seemed interesting. I don't know if that's really a great story or not, but that's just the way it happened. I didn't have my goal has always been to do radio. My goal has never been to do podcasts. If you listen to the show Davin's Den, it's a radio show. We are live on the internet when we do it. I'm doing like drive time radio. It's not like a show like this where you're having like one guest for an hour on a specific topic. It's not that type of thing.
Oh yeah, it sounds like. I mean, as soon as I listened to it, I went, "Oh, this is a radio show." As soon as I heard it, because they had all the cues, the music and everything, I said, "This is a radio show that he podcasts." But the thing about it is because even like when you have people like Tom Likas, he went from radio to internet radio, and then he went to podcasting. And but the only problem is his podcast is you can't hear it unless you're a subscriber and you pay $11 or something like that. I think it is something like that.
Oh, really? So he's charging an annual fee. That's how he's making his money.
Yeah, and but the thing I enjoy this because it gives you the opportunity to have complete editorial control, over what you do.
Yeah, no, you can certainly refine a message, or like an agenda, or drive a topic in a certain way with a podcast. I mean, it's a great tool. The problem is everybody has one. It's kind of like everyone's a comic, so it's hard. So you really have to look and sift through a lot of stuff that may not be so good to find something that you really enjoy.
That's one of the things that I found out about this particular thing, and especially with this one's my original podcast that I still do. That's 5 years old.
Oh wow, that's good. That's a good run.
Yeah.
That is. Most people they do this for like a year or 9 months or a year and a half. They go, fuck this, I'm done.
and now I'm doing this one in addition to it. So, and people go, well, don't you you're going to run out of stories to tell? I'm going, I'm 50 years old and I've been a comedian for 30 something years. I literally, if you had a pie chart of things that I could talk about, it would be just, you need an electron microscope to find what I've covered so far in 300 and something episodes.
See, but you're doing something that I've never done. You're like carrying a show by yourself. Mm-hmm. I haven't really done that. I don't even know if I can do that. Carry 30 minutes of me just talking and not getting feedback from anybody and hopefully making it entertaining. I've never really done that.
Well, the thing about it is when I started doing, I had to actually cut it back to 30 minutes because when I started, I started out doing 5, 10, 15, but then it got up to 45 minutes. Then all of a sudden it was like an hour and a half. And I went, wait a second. What are you, an idiot? Just cut this down. It's like, just cut this down. And I started keeping it to 45. Then I went, you know what? The podcast that I like the most, the Wonderies and things of that nature, around a half an hour. And it's just one voice. So from now on, I decided I'm going to keep that one about a half an hour. But it is a completely different skill set that I've found. The skill set that we have acquired over decades. Mm-hmm. It's like the difference between boxing and MMA. Whereas like MMA and boxing have similarities, but it's a different storytelling style, and it's actually, once you've done it a couple of times, maybe 5 to 10 times, I should say, you start going, you're like, and if you do it, I would suggest, unless you want to keep doing it, don't try it, because once you do it, you'll become addicted to it.
Well, listen, there's been various times where I've been told, offered, persuaded to try to do a solo vehicle, and I just never have. It doesn't mean I won't, so it's probably something I should consider, but maybe I'm just a whore and I need that feedback of somebody there laughing at the nonsense I'm spewing. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because the feedback takes a while,
Right.
It's
that's what it is. When you're doing it alone in your studio, and especially if you're recording it, you're like, well, I think it's funny, but does anybody else? You don't know. It's a different thing.
Yeah, because like I get feedback now. It's really weird. I have 348 of the other one. And what happens is you do it, and then like at first it was just the United States listening, and then all of a sudden you start seeing a lot of people in the United Kingdom start listening, and then Canada starts listening, and then Australia starts listening, and you're getting,
that's great.
And I was like, what? Because you will wake up in the morning and you look at your stats and like, the hell is that?
That's great.
The hell is that? And so, but the thing about it is but these are people that are asking me questions about episode 112.
Right, they're going back. That's the thing about a podcast. You leave them up there. They're up there forever. So you got 5 years worth of stuff. I got stuff all the way back from 2011. If you. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff people want to know. The problem is when they ask us now about stuff from 2-3 years ago, we don't really know what they're talking about.
Davin, I'll be honest with you. The second I finish a podcast, I'm not even kidding. Edit, I put the commercial spots in this, that, and the other one. The second it's put in queue, I immediately start writing the next one. So,
oh wow, you are a hard worker. Good for you.
So it's like, because I don't have, I can't sit back and go, people are going to like this. I better memorize it. It takes too long to put one together.
Well, the thing with me is, once a show is done, once I've uploaded it, if I'm talking to somebody the next day and they say they like it, I'm like, what were we talking about? Because I honestly don't remember most of the time what we discussed. Like, they'll bring something up and go, oh, did I say that? I don't remember saying that. That's an awful thing that I said. Why would I say that?
Wait till it's just you, man. I'm telling you. But the funny thing about it, this is something I actually noticed, and if you begin to do a solo podcast, you'll know. This is when I started. I was living in Los Angeles, and there was a girl I was dating. She lived 45 minutes away. I would drive to her for the date, and on the way up the 405 freeway, I would listen to these radio shows, and there would always be a host that did sometimes they'll do this 20-minute preamble to the interview, or even before the interview, they, kind of like what Kelly Ripa does in the beginning of that Regis and Kelly show, whatever that was. And I enjoyed that part of it. And sometimes they'd have the guest on, or they may have phone callers, and the caller, sometimes callers, come on. Sometimes it's like, ugh, when you're listening to it. I like the preamble part.
Callers break up the flow. I mean, a lot of if the host is worth his salt, you want to hear the host, and you don't want to hear the callers. If the host is really good. Yeah,
and that was the thing that fascinated me about that, and that's why I started to do the solo podcast. Also, I wanted to try it out before, if I decided if I wanted to do it. But but it's a fun thing, and I'm listening to you, and you sound like you guys are all sounding like you're having the time of your life on the show.
Oh, we have a good time because we say terrible things. But I mean, we have a good time. We got to remember. I mean, I've known these people for 15, 20 years. We've been together as a show since 2011. I mean, I've gotten them international exposure in national television and everything, so they know I'm working hard for them and everything, and we have a good time. But listen, there's frustrations, but we are having a good time. That is the one thing, and we have actually had knockdown, drag 'em out arguments on the show. That happens too, especially when it comes to politics.
Well, I mean, guess what? Guess who's going to start? I was actually working my way backward through your show one at a time, but I think I'm going to skip around a little bit.
On my show?
Yeah, just so I can find the fights.
Oh, this fight, I mean, it's gotten really it's gotten really nasty.
Facebook bad?
What?
Has it gotten Facebook bad? You know, when people on Facebook, they really start chopping on each other with axes?
It's gotten personal a few times, not that often. Not that often. Usually we keep our stuff together. What I do like about our show is, what I don't like about a lot of these political shows, when we do get into politics, and our show isn't all politics, but, like, if you turn on, like, talk radio, it's usually all left or all right, and that doesn't really do it for me. What I do like about our show is that one of my co-hosts, Joe, is a big Trump guy, and I am not, and neither is my other co-host, Pip. So it is interesting, because sometimes, sometimes we'll take the positions you think we would take, but then sometimes we'll take a different position where I'll be like, well, maybe Trump was right there. And once in a while, Joe might be like, all right, this is where Trump screwed up here. Once in a great while it happens. So I do like the fact that it's not predictable, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, but, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, no, it's one of those things where I the internet, everybody just kind of piles on.
Yeah.
And many times you can tell that the person is reacting to someone else's reaction. And many times when something has actually been resolved successfully, you literally have facts that prove that the thing that people were outraged by never actually happened, and it is proven. Not an opinion, proven, but there are still people that haven't caught on yet. So you'll have people still piling on, even though it's been resolved.
Because because people are not logical animals. People are emotional animals. It's what I do. Because I've helped a lot of scam victims who have been scammed over the years. I've done a lot of that stuff with my dalliance into the scammers and everything. And it can be very hard. You're showing them, listen, this person you're talking to is not who they think it is, and here's why. And you show them exhibit A, B, C, D, all the way through Z, and they don't want to believe it because emotionally they can't handle it. It's the same thing with President Trump. Emotionally, they can't handle the fact that this guy isn't the billionaire daddy who's going to make it all right and make the country great again. They can't handle the fact that this guy's probably bought and paid for by Russia with all this stuff. And it's not me saying it as a partisan. You just look at all the stuff that's going on. And I say now, I'll tell them, I go, okay, this is happening to Donald Trump. You don't believe it. Now, imagine if it was Hillary Clinton. Would you believe it then?
First of all, Davin, I just want to say right now, you damn lib, you lefty, lib, lefty, left, libby, left.
But that's the thing. I'm actually not. I'm just a logical. I'm just a logical person. I just look at the data and go, well, that doesn't add up. But people can't do that. Most people are emotional. That's why people, when they vote, very often people vote against their own self-interest. We see this all the time. Some of the poorest people will vote for some of the people that will do the least for them. It's just the way it is.
I get a kick out of it. One of the things about you talking about looking at things in a more pragmatic way, I noticed that when people would attempt to pick fights with me on Twitter or Facebook, and I wasn't taking anything personally because I really don't care what that person thinks. So,
well, that's hard to do, though. Good for you.
They're like, you. I don't even want to use the words they use. You know what I mean? But it starts with lib, and then the second half of it, And
but I mean that's when the conversation's over. When they get to that, you go, okay, you've revealed who you are. Why would I want to waste any more time with you?
Yeah, because. Where do you? I mean, how? I mean, you obviously. I know you're active on Facebook. We both are because we've actually conversed the most on Facebook. But are you active on Twitter as well, like that?
I mean, I have a Twitter account at Davin Comedy at Davin's Den. Look at those plugs. But I'm not as active on Twitter. Because it's even now that they've moved it up, was it 280 characters? It's a lot easier to express myself. But, I broke in when it was 140 characters, like so many, and I did not find that as a great way to express myself. And also, how often do I want to have in-depth conversations with complete strangers?
Well, it's really weird because I have to bounce back and forth between the two. But I just get a really big kick out of when sometimes I'll post something and it's just information because I go, this is an interesting article. I don't agree with this, but I think people should know about this. And then underneath in the comments, and 90% of the time, they're not attacking me. They're attacking each other. And they're not even acknowledging
you just
me.
like to stir it up. You light the match and see what happens.
And I'm thinking, I literally just wanted to find out what people thought. And people go, well, I think this and this and this. And I go, okay, well, cool. And well, I think this and this. That's what I wanted. But I stopped doing that because I just wanted to have a conversation or get information from people with different perspectives. And I literally had to, my page was public, and I literally had to pull it back to private because I have a lot of followers on Twitter, and some of them came over to Facebook, and they weren't even attacking me. But like my friends would say something, and I'm sitting there going, "That's a guy from Twitter." So it was like you came from Twitter to Facebook.
Yeah, it's when worlds collide. Yeah, my Facebook is set to private, and it's been that way for years, and only friends only can see my stuff. It's most comics were like, we want to get as many people on Facebook as possible. I was never that way. I don't know most of the people on Facebook, to be honest with you. I can't remember them anymore, but I know at one point I knew them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird thing there. Now, though, as far as the scammers are concerned, that's got to be it's got to be a pretty joyous experience to knock down some of these losers who are taking the money from people who are, because you know how it is. I mean, no matter how intelligent you are, there's going to be something. It's like when you see somebody that's dating someone or married someone that's just the devil, but they can't see it.
The most joy we've had when it comes to that was this woman called her name is Juliana Avalos. I'll give you the real short story on that. So what happened was she was a part-time model, and for some reason the West African scammers loved using her pictures to scam people. That's what scammers do. They'll take military people, models, attractive people to scam. So a lot of people got scammed with her pictures and everything. So we got and actually my first scammer. No, my second scammer, or my third scammer. One of my scammers started using her pictures and everything. So I got interested in it and everything. And then I did some research on her, and I saw her talk and everything. And then it comes out that she's suing Match.com for it was $1.5 billion at the time. It ballooned up to $4.5 billion. But I had the information that she was scamming people back.
Oh.
She was actually working as a scammer. So we kind of exposed that, and it was very hard for the press did not want to take a comedian seriously, but the lawyer was pissed off at me that was threatened me and everything, which was kind of he's like threatening me. But to get to what you were asking me about making people feel good, we actually saved people. Mm-hmm. We actually saved people that were being scammed by her from revealing it. And then later on, just last year, because she was working with her boyfriend Craig Grant, remember how everybody was all into the cryptocurrency like a year ago?
Yeah.
So there was one called BitConnect. BitConnect ultimately was a Ponzi scheme. But anyway, her boyfriend Craig was making a boatload of money promoting it and everything. And all the research I did, and it went belly up. It went belly up, and now there's a major lawsuit going against BitConnect. But all the research I did was starting to circulate through the internet and everything, and I was getting emails and letters from people that I saved them thousands of dollars by revealing how they work with scammers, because I documented it all on my website. I had proof of them. I had proof of messages from them, proof of them conversing with African scammers and everything. And then I had audio of Juliana actually scamming, like phone calls and everything. I had it all, and I had it all laid out. So Juliana and her boyfriend Craig are on all these YouTube videos promoting BitConnect, and they got out when they saw all this stuff before it went belly up. So that's the rewarding aspect, when you can actually – it's not necessarily taking down the scammer. It's saving the people before it gets worse.
I think you should go a step further and actually go and take down the scammer. Come on. That you need to
take down who?
You need to take down the scammers. It's not enough to save the people. Take down the scammers.
No, but I have. But I ruined their. I mean, I'm not. I can't fly over there and everything. I've ruined their game.
No, I was trying
I've blown I mean, I'm not going to shoot them.
No, but listen. I'm trying to help you out, buddy. I said, what we do is we get some black outfits. You and I go over there and beat the crap out of them. Come on, let's get this done.
I think that would have been a great idea, except the fact that you just announced our plan on the podcast, so now this is going to be evidence. So I'm thinking it's not a great idea.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is make it a point to write down when this happened in the podcast, to edit it out, so the vicious beatings will happen. I
think now it's a better idea again.
It's a good idea again. The vicious beatings, and I'll forget to chop that part out. Mr. Thomas.
Then it'll be a bad idea. Really, the whole crux of your plan involves on your editing skills. That's really where we are with this.
I think you better hope I don't do it late at night, because then I might cut out something else. I really got that part out, and I'll cut out something that's funny but that was not part of this. And let's be honest, we're both. Hey, look, you wanted national coverage, right? When we're dragged away by the feds, I mean.
And you know what? I don't think the feds would actually drag us away. I think they'd actually be pretty happy if we took out some scammers. And like I said, we've worked with the Pentagon. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we've helped them combat scammers. We cut a public service announcement for a base in Tennessee. I mean, we try to be active, try to give back.
Now, how much of your show overall? I mean, is this a regular feature? Or is this something that just pops up when you see something that catches your eye?
It's I'm doing a 3+ hour show, so it's a regular feature. When I was syndicated, when I was nationally syndicated on like all the radio stations, I did like more tips and more stuff, what's going on, technology and scamming and avoid scammers and stuff like that. I did a lot of that because they asked me to. But I mean, it's still a regular feature, and I'm still scamming scammers. And once in a while, I'll still break into like a scammers group, because scammers have all these groups and everything, and I'll reveal what the scammers are saying about us, their victims, and their plans to my audience. And it's still a regular feature.
Let me ask now. Have you done anything? Now we have the radio show. Have you done anything video wise? I mean, I've seen you. I've seen some interviews. I've seen you interviewed about the scammers. I've seen that. I've seen an interview. But have you done anything video? I mean, like YouTube.
We used to be. Our show used to be on video too. You know, especially when we were at Anthony's house. You know, his studio, his home studio, it was a video platform, and then we brought that here, and I had the green screen and all that stuff. I know that's what's very popular right now. Quite frankly, it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass. I'm kind of lazy. No, I mean, you know what? And then people it's weird. I enjoy doing radio more than TV, but here's the weird thing. People, I don't care if people attack me. I don't really give a shit, but they would attack the girl on the show, and I'm like, you know what? And she's the one who works the chat room, because we have a live chat room going. So she's the one that has to see all their nonsense and awful things that they might do. And it seemed like the video format encouraged more of that type of bad behavior, as opposed to just the audio.
Do you watch?
So that's why.
Do you watch a lot of YouTube?
No.
Okay. I watch some because I was actually what I was doing. I use YouTube like the library, to be honest with you. Like if I want to learn like new editing tips or things like that.
Oh, it's great for that. Yeah.
And that's about 85% of what I do on YouTube. And of course, there's people tripping. That's 5% right there. People falling over things. But I started to notice that, you know, when you're there, which is another reason why I wanted to do podcasting, very similar to what you just said, that the community of, you know, in radio and in podcasting is a tad different than on YouTube, because, you know, you would be hard pressed to find podcasters doing or radio people doing entire shows or having entire series attacking another individual show. I'm watching YouTube and they got literally YouTube people who have decent sized followings, you know, 50,000, 30,000, 300,000.
That's great.
Attacking other YouTubers.
Yeah, you know what? That's happened. But that happened on radio. There's the radio wars, and that's happened on internet radio. It's a way to try to get buzz. It's a cheap way to get people involved and listening. And I get, you know what? I'm just too old for that shit. Listen, man, podcasting. I mean, I know you and I are kind of dinosaurs, but podcasting really is a young people's game. It really is. I mean, that you know, most people our age are not religiously listening to podcasts. That's it's mostly younger people, and younger people probably get off a little bit more on these type of wars and flaming each other and battling than I do. It just doesn't interest me.
Have you ever looked at the demographics to the people listening to you?
Yeah, I mean, I have. I haven't in a long time. It's actually pretty varied. I mean, you know, it's actually all ages and, you know, men, women, and X. Actually, I don't know about X. I'm just assuming there's some X. Yeah,
I'm 51% men, 49% women, right?
That's great.
And here's the thing. Half of my audience, little more than half of them, are younger than me. I mean, I'm talking like 18 to 34.
That's great.
And I'm saying, you young, everything works perfectly bastards, which you know, I was surprised. And then when people contact you, it's just really weird because they have a connection. This is what I want to tell you about. When we were talking a little earlier about doing the solo type thing. It's weird how much people connect with the solo voice on the podcast. I didn't understand.
Not really. I'm going to tell you why it's not weird. I'm going to tell you why it's not real. And I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But the reason traditional talk radio has loyal listeners. They connect to that person. And the people that actually reach out to you very often don't necessarily have a ton of other things going on in their life. If they're religiously, if you're committing to listening to a podcast every week or radio every day, you're making that a priority. So they're making you a priority, so they do feel connected to you. Because remember, you're there, you're bearing their. It's like an extended family, so it's not weird. But it is a responsibility for us to be honest with them and treat them right, and do the right thing by them and respect that trust. But it's not weird. It's really the foundation of how talk radio works.
You know what? And I agree with everything you just said. And maybe the choice of words was wrong. What I should have said is it's vastly different than what I was used to, because the language was different. You can go, say you play a club or you play an area, and you get to the point where you're really kind of known in that area as a comic. And people stop you on the street. And then I remember people would stop me on the street. Man, I like when you said that thing about, I like that bit you did. I like that character you did. And it was essentially, we were talking as individuals, and they were speaking of the show or the bit as this separate entity that I was responsible for creating, but it had become something else. Like, I love your kid, or your kid is great. That's not you. That kid came from you and is the result of your parenting, but that's still a separate thing, even though, it could even be called, they have the same name, Davin Jr., whatever.
Right, but I don't think most people, listen, while we're honest with the audience, a lot of us, there is a part of it that's an act. They don't understand that's not, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I just from last night's radio show, I don't know what the hell we were talking, I think we were talking about New Year's Eve or something. But anyway, I've noticed Ritz crackers these days, they don't hold up the way Ritz crackers used to hold up. They're very crumbly. So I went on this whole rant about how we're getting screwed with today's Ritz crackers. They don't hold up. The foundation's not there. A whole rant on the radio. In real life, I might be annoyed by a Ritz cracker crumbling when I want to put a schmear. But in real life, I'm not going on a rant about a Ritz cracker. But because they're so connected with us, or what we're putting out there, they think that's us and they grab onto it. I get it.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, this is the difference in language that I noticed regarding the podcast. As I stated, that's great. But but the people that contact me regarding the podcast, this one and the other one, it's usually they're talking about you. Like they would say, Dab, I like that bit when you did with the thing, you talked about this. And then with the podcast, the podcast audience is like, we love you. It's like they talk about you first, and then they talk about the thing you said. With the stand-up, to talk about the thing I said, and then they come back to me. And it's a subtle difference. But I noticed,
think about this. When people are experiencing your stand-up, in their club, they're experiencing it with a whole group of other people.
Yeah.
It's a group thing. When they're experiencing your podcast, chances are it's just them or maybe a loved one. It's a much more intimate experience.
Yeah.
So that's why they feel like they love you, because they feel like you're sitting there with them, which is a credit to you and the quality of the show and how you're presenting it. It's a great compliment. But it's a much more intimate experience in some ways. But, in other ways, doing live is much more intimate because we're in this together. We're all experiencing together. It depends on how what we put out there is being absorbed by the listener.
Yeah, it's just a really, that's one of the reasons why I, like I said, maybe in 5 years, I think I've taken like days off here and there, because it's like sometimes what happens is even if you put up something a little late, because of some kind of technical snafu where is it?
Yeah, but that's nice.
It's great. Nice. I thought it was just kind of cool because I thought, I thought people were going to talk about something else and like, hey, come on, bro, let's get this going. And I'm like, I'm almost done. I'm still editing right now because a couple, you know how it is. Sometimes something will happen and you can't even get back to you can't get back to the house or. One time my computer crashed and I just didn't have any equipment at all, but I had all these pieces, on flash drives, and I didn't get a chance to edit. And it was just really, really, it was a funny thing, and I got a kick out of it. But I just thought that was a funny thing, and
it's a compliment.
Yes, it's fun. It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
it's a fun thing to do. So now,
hey, what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Oh yeah,
no, nothing.
And another thing. So tell me what's going on with you, my friends, because we're almost at the completion of the show. So tell me what's going on with you right now. Tell everybody where they can hear you, where they can see you, where you're going, because this episode will be coming out this Saturday.
Okay. Let's see. Well, you could always hear my radio show. Go to davinsden.com and go to podcast. We're live on Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. You can hang in our chat room, listen to that. And we're on iHeart Radio. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're in TuneIn. And, of course, you can get it directly from our website. We also have an Android app. So that's that. My website, davincomedy.com. And let's see. Next Wednesday, I will be in Lumberton, North Carolina at Adelio's. And then Thursday through Saturday, I'll be in Myrtle Beach at the Carolina Comedy Club.
And also, I know for a fact that I have listeners there. So, both of those states.
In Myrtle Beach?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
That's true. Well, I hope they come out and see me. It's a great club. Have you been there?
No, I have not.
Once you get back on track, I will put on a word for you.
Oh, I need many words, my friend, when I come back.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to link I'm going to put the link to your website in the description. So that should have everything on there, your dates, your bio, and everything like that.
Cool.
All right, my friends. Folks, what did I tell you? Okay, every time I bring somebody on this show, you wind up loving them, and I know you love Davin. Davin, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Steve. It's good talking with you, man.
Thank you, my brother. And obviously, when I get back into the game in a few months, I will see you then, my friend.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Take care, my brother. And thank you for coming on, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, we've knocked out another episode. I had fun. I hope you had fun. Thank you very, very much for sharing this time with me. And I look forward to hearing from you and talking to you and entertaining you soon. Much love to you all. Take care.